Welcome to the SupplyJobs Canada's groups session about the electronic login devices. Our panelist, Amrit Hodler. Amrit is experiencing the transportation and logistics, and currently Amrit is a HR personnel staff of a logistics company. I'm sure he would provide some more details about his company before he starts, but for us, I'm the founder of Sierra Projects Services, Inc. Basically, Sierra Projects is involved in training, management consulting, business process consulting as well, specifically in the area of procurement outsourcing. We are specifically involved in helping foreign trained professionals because we do believe that they are critical resources in any project. So these has become one of our passion, basically to help those who are looking to, transit from moving from their own country where they've gained experience and then having their experience recognized here in Canada to be able to move back into their career here in Canada. So we provide a lot of resources in that regards. Well, this will be one of those resources we provide to bring people who are experts in our midst in different areas of specialty to help others to learn and then to inform them about the different industries here in Canada. So we also provide a platform. That platform is called the SupplyJobs Canada platform. We have a lot of different folks in different specializations of supply chain management. Most of them are actually procurement folks, but we do have people who are project managers, and we also do have people who are engineers, people who are IT folks. So it's really broad, and this spreads across Canada as well. There are a lot of people across Canada, and there are people, of course, who are also outside Canada. So this is why we call it the global supply value chain of project expertise and resources. Having said that, today we are talking about electronic login devices, and I would like to hand this over to Amrit to help us with understanding the electronic login devices. And for me, I have my own questions. Of course, I've been, searching on the internet, and I've seen a lot of folks who have concerns, about this implementation of this type of technology on the trucking, in the trucking industry, basically. But it's not only in the trucking industry. I think commercial truck operators also are required to have this installed on their trucks. So I'm ready. I haven't said that. Over to you. If you could start for us, that'll be great.
So thank you. That was a good introduction. My name is Amrit Hodler. I work with TAG Logistics. I'm a recruiter there in charge of driver hiring. So I hope everyone enjoys my presentation. I'd like to keep an open forum, so if anybody has a question, just ask away.
Okay. And to add to that, Amrit, I think for anyone who actually wants to ask questions, just so that we are not, because they are mute right now. So anyone that wants to ask a question, there's actually a tool that looks like you're raising up your hand. If you click on that tool, I'll be able to see that you want to say something. So then that allows me to be able to keep it open for you, or to allow you to talk, basically.
Okay, thanks. So electronic logging devices. So who is regulated? Motor carriers and drivers of property carrying commercial motor vehicles involved in interstate or foreign commercial. If the vehicle is a combination weight or is rated at 10,001 pounds or more. The vehicle is used to transport hazardous materials in quantities that require placards, no matter what the vehicle weight is rated at. Right, so the first steps, a company has to find a provider. So we use Fleet Complete by TELUS. Then the GPSs have to be installed in the trucks. It's not hard to do. It's plug and play. So they ship it to you, and you just install it to the truck's ECM. And also drivers and staff needs to be trained on this So we get synergy going. Everyone's on the same page. Right, so when to use an electronic logging device? It's all the time when the driver begins work or is required to be ready for work, even when the driver is relieved from work and all other responsibility for doing his work. So for example, driving, loading or unloading your truck, inspecting your vehicle, fueling your truck, performing other duties or around the vehicle, waiting to be dispatched, complying with drug or alcohol testing requirements, attending meetings, safety events, or training session required by your motor vehicle carrier. I'm sorry, doing paid work for someone else.
Okay.
Right, so this is what
So I think I had a question. If you back it up, I had a question actually. Just let me ask right away. Not here. I think it's the previous one.
Sure. Is that better? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's here. So you did say find a provider will use Fleet Complete by TELUS. TELUS happens to be a telecommunication provider here in Canada. Is that correct? Is that the same
Yeah, it's
TELUS?
the same TELUS. It's the same one, yeah.
Okay. So the GPS, which is the hardware part of it, is it something that they also sell as part of the service package?
Yeah, so good question. TELUS, they'll sell you the SIM card and the service, the internet,
Yeah.
and Fleet completes the software. It's a
Okay.
partnership between the two.
Oh, I see. I see. So these are two vendors working together to provide a solution, right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, they have exclusive. TELUS will only provide the internet to Fleet Complete, and Fleet Complete will only work with TELUS, and then the customer. It's all they have synergy. Everybody working together.
Okay. So what is your take on the level of adoption in the industry? What do you think the kind of adoption level or rate at this
Yeah.
time?
Now a lot of because I have a lot of friends in the business now. Everyone's they're up to date now. In the beginning, some people installed the software before the required dates, but now everyone knows the system and everyone's ready.
Okay, sounds good. So seems everybody's ready for the what is it called now? Is it the mandate starting June, or I think it's June 22nd or something like that?
Yeah. Now there's more confidence in the air. In the beginning, it's a learning curve.
Oh yeah. So do we have like maybe you have this period within which you have to comply, or is it by June 22nd everybody must have complied?
So that's a good question. I believe the officers, for them, it'll be a learning curve as well. So I don't picture them giving tickets up front because they're going to be learning the system as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll leave the rest of the questions going forward. I do have some questions, but you probably might get to it later.
Okay, friend.
Okay.
So sorry, I'll go back to. Okay, so this is a paper log on the left side, and this is the new electronic log on the right side. So electronic logging device tracks your on-duty and off-duty time for an entire 24-hour period. So they do the
So,
same thing, but on the right is where we're going to be focusing on e-logs.
so this is actually a tablet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tablet. Yes, you're right. It's a tablet.
Oh, really? Because I thought it's one, special tool that is different from regular telephone or things like that.
Yeah, so the provider we use as I mentioned, TELUS Fleet Complete. They actually gave us tablets.
So this attaches directly to the ECM module.
Yeah, it's Wi-Fi. So then the Wi-Fi works with the ECM. The tablet has the Wi-Fi turned on, and we connect to the truck via that.
Oh, really? Interesting. So does this send signal back to the office, or what kind of communication do you have there with this thing on board when it's
So that's a good
installed?
question. The safety team, they have the same access to the drivers like the On the back end, the safety team, they have all the logs and everything. They can get that.
They can retrieve it in real time.
Yeah, exactly. In real time, there's different logins. There's one for the driver and one for the safety team, but they both have access.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's see. So this is this is an example. It shows off-duty time, sleeper berth time, driving time, and on duty but not driving. So this would be like if you're doing a circle check on your vehicle, you're on duty but you're not driving. You would mark the on duty one, the fourth bar.
Okay.
And there's a remark section, so you can you can write in there, took a coffee break or etc.
Okay.
So this is what I spoke about: off duty, sleeper berth, driving, on duty.
Mm. So for those who are not familiar with the Canadian legislation, I think that might be a kind of a background for them to really know, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we actually having to connect an ELD to a truck? You know, a lot of us we're in supply chain, but we're not really familiar with what is happening on the field. Like this is basically logistics operations, right?
Yes.
A lot of the times, if you're not really exposed to what is happening in operations, you don't really have an idea what is going on, even with the safety and the regulatory perspectives. So can you give that background here? Well, what is going on here? Why do we need to do these? And what are the legislations that mandates us to actually do this? What are the requirements?
So that's right. It's simple as 13 hours a day. If you're a Canadian truck driver, you can only drive 13 hours a day. So this tracks it, and it's for the safety of everybody, the driver, and the public.
Okay.
Okay, so what is on a log? The date, the total miles driven, truck and trailer numbers, name of the motor carrier's main office address, place for the driver's signature certification. If there's a team driver, that's also on the log. And 24-hour period starting time selected by the motor carrier. Total hours in each duty status. Shipping documents. So that's like if there's hazmat paperwork, that also needs to be on the tablet. So the tablet's a central piece of information, it's like a hub for hazmat paperwork, driver information, etc.
Okay. So you say, for example, somebody pulls the driver or pulls them off the road, and then maybe I don't know, maybe we could do that type of a thing. Maybe police or something like that. They will be able to see some of the documentation of what they are carrying and stuff like that.
Yeah, the government wants to keep it as transparent as possible for safety.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. So a log must be done for each day. There must be a backup log as well. So that goes back to the point I mentioned earlier, that the safety team has access to the software. That's why, because say the tablet crashes, then there's still a backup in the safety person's computer.
Okay.
Okay, so it must be completed by the driver. You must also have your previous 7 days, so that the inspector, if you're pulled over, can look at your whole week. Okay, and you must also deliver the logs to the transport company, but because it's digital, they already have it. It's easier than dropping off a paper copy.
Okay. So
Okay,
based on what we just talked about now, you know, this information is being pulled in real time, you know, to the system at the office. So apparently they will have all this information. I think this is the advantage over the paper log, right?
exactly. There you go. Yeah, this is it's a transition phase, but you got it right. These are the advantages of a e-log system. There's less paper. So this is my slide on ELDs. So now the time has come where it must be used. There's no option. Must contain the same items required on the paper log and be current up to your last change of duty status. You must be able to produce a log for the current day and the previous 7 days. Should be with you at the cab at all times. It also needs instructions on how to store and retrieve the data, a list of codes the ELD uses and their meanings. Okay, so if your E-log fails, you must be able to reconstruct the current day's logs and the previous 7 days logs. So this would be when you would, so the drivers still need to keep a paper log in the truck as a backup.
Okay. So, well, well, I guess maybe that's another question entirely, because now if you are using an e-login system, I guess my guess is that because it's being collected in real time at the office, you should have a backup, because then when you do e-log and you're still doing the paper log, isn't that duplication?
Yeah, you're right. So the only thing is if the e-log goes down, then the MTO officer, they won't be able to see it because you're for whatever reason, your tablet crashed, just right? So at
Yeah.
that exact time, they'll ask for the paper log
Wow.
because they can't access the system, right? Because the e-log's down. So
Mm.
they just want to enforce, they want to make sure some sort of duty hours are being tracked.
So if I hear you clearly now, even with the e-login device, you still have to do paper log?
You need to keep a paper log in the truck, and that's for a backup. So if your software crashes, you can still continue your shift by using the paper log. It's a backup.
Okay.
Okay. If using a non-approved ELD, like for example, a smartphone, you must have the means to be able to print your logs if requested.
Okay.
I mean, there are some exceptions to e-logs. Okay, so if you're in the oil business, oil fields, or if you're doing local haulage within a small, so for example, 100 kilometers,
Mm.
and also for adverse driving conditions. So that means, say if you're stuck in a winter storm,
Yeah.
we want the government, according to the rules, will allow you to get home safely so you can drive over your hours because you can't
Okay.
just park the truck in a storm.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so
you use a couple of what they call it, the abbreviation they call it. You talked about an MTO. What is that?
so that's the Ministry of Transport. MTO stands for Ministry of Transport.
Okay. So
But
they
I
do
think,
have inspectors on the road.
yeah, I think that's for, I'm so sorry. I think that's for an Ontario. I don't know what but there's special police for transport. I'm not sure what
Oh,
they're called in your province.
yeah, they probably would have it because that should be a federal thing, right? Because we're talking about federal infrastructures if you're crossing the border and all that.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Okay, so this is my last slide, and the hours of service regulations are designed to address driver fatigue. Following the rules and keeping good records, you can help you avoid costly citations and fines or being placed out of service. Maintain a low score in CSA's hours of service compliance basic. Following the rules may prevent a crash and possibly even save a life. And that's it. I'm open for questions.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. I think the guys that we actually have on this session, I'm not even sure they are familiar with the Canadian industry. You might correct me. I have Makosa and I have Teransi. Teransi already provided his own information. He did say that passionate logistics specialist who is currently working in South Africa for a couple of universities. I'll be migrating to Canada as soon as the traveling restrictions are exempted and looking forward to begin my career in Canada within SCM. So that's the Rancy there, who probably has not really been exposed to the industry here in Canada, which is very good. I mean, right now it's like we're dropping you right in the, you know, yeah, I
Yes,
think
sir.
so. Yeah, I think it's Rancy. Okay, let me allow him to talk. Let's see.
All right. Greetings to you again. Thank you so much for a very, exciting presentation, Amrit. For really enlightening, on how the ELD, really works and how it adds value within the transport, space. From my side, I was just interested to probably maybe understand in terms of the planning, I understand, for example, in the at some point when I once worked in one of the companies that had transport planning softwares.
Yep.
Among the challenges, so this was like here in South Africa, where we were more of like consulting with some of the companies, and I'm just curious to maybe find out in terms of the integration, the ELD,
Yep.
planning device, is it able to probably be configured again with the other existing maybe transport software that maybe that company is using, maybe in terms of planning ahead? I'm just thinking,
Very good question.
be it maybe with the within the different, can either be a certain depot within a certain company's, probably operating within different regions, just for really improving visibility and also planning ahead.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, go ahead, Amrit. I've heard that question before. I've actually had to talk to somebody who worked I think he's a logistics system specialist, and I think he was talking about integration with just like you said now, integration with transport management system. Yeah, so that would be an interesting way to actually look at this, because you have routing, you have all those type of things in the back end. How do all these things all connect together? I guess that might be Terence's question there, Amrit.
That's a fabulous question, and it's a it's a challenge we're having right now because we're using so many softwares. Like the dispatchers use different software, accounting, and we need to get to one program that has all of that. So unfortunately, now it's a problem. We're scrambling the different accounting software, the different. So if there was something like that, then that'd be a good solution. But unfortunately, our company we're using many different software. It's not ideal, but that's just it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that will be the situation with a lot of organizations, even given that this is something that is probably new. Amrit, I also realized that there is a system that was in place even before the ELD now becomes the new legislation. There are forgotten, there are a lot of abbreviations you guys use in that industry. So I think it's AEORB or something like that. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
that's the same. It's just the newer version. So you're right. The thing you mentioned, it's called an onboard logging device.
Okay.
And that is, when I say ELD, that's what I'm referring to. It's the newer one. So the driver can't edit hours. So the old system, right? Drivers would like hide a couple of hours.
Oh.
But the new system that you mentioned, the onboard logging, is the driver can never edit hours. He he can't like the expression hanky panky. The
Mm-hmm.
driver cannot do any of that.
Oh, okay, I see. I see. Now, yeah, I think yeah, I get it now. There was a system in place. Maybe this particular system does allow them to make changes. Is that the case?
Yeah, the old system, the driver could change a few hours on the e-log, and that was a concern because the drivers are paid like when they're on duty, right?
Yeah.
So they would try to extend every day by like they would try to hide a few hours so still get paid but not show officers.
Okay.
But today you
Okay.
cannot do that. Today, when the driver puts the truck in drive, his
Mm,
hours are started.
okay. Okay. And to also speak specifically to Terence's question, you're talking about integration. So, because when you look at the big picture, which is supply chain management, you have a situation where you have a device here that is collecting data. And of course, as you looked at the slide you presented there, we're talking about even 24 hours operations. A driver could start at any time within 24 hours. And, even automatically, information, even without maybe the other officers running from the office, even at home or something like that, there is this device that is collecting information as the driver is walking throughout the clock, or maybe they are changing duties and all that stuff. So my point is that this is also like an Internet of Things, because this thing could be connected to the internet. And then the information that is pulled from this device, as it's collecting this information over days, over months or whatever, could actually be used as an input into the larger resource planning tool by organizations. But apparently, maybe small organizations might not really be involved in those type of things, or it might be maybe some consultants who actually could deal with information at this type of level, in terms of analytics,
Yes.
that will be dealing with it in this type of shape that Terence is talking about. But no doubt, the issue of integration in this industry 4.0 definitely is something that it's already in operation. I know Bell MTS. I don't know the type of services you get from TELUS, Amri, but I know Bell MTS are actually providing a lot of solutions around the Internet of Things,
Yep.
capability for this type of ELD devices. But then the question is this, yeah, we could accumulate data what we want, but then how do you use this data? And then this is where the question of integration comes in. How does it integrate with, an enterprise resource planning tool? That's if you have one, because like you were saying, Amri, that you are using a lot of other softwares, and depending on the size of the organization, some organizations could afford an enterprise resource planning tool, which is basically a very expensive tool. But I don't know what you guys are using, so you might be having some of those tendencies to look into, okay, well, what is the value of this data to us? Because as I say now, this data is an asset. So all of those considerations might be something that that will be considered at the the board level or at the strategic level, to see what value this is to the company. But I know for a fact that this is about collecting data, and definitely it's a very, very useful resource for any organization to be able to use their data for long-term planning, and also even short-term planning for tracking safety, analytics, to know, okay, what are those misses, and then to be able to use it for risk management as a whole. So it's I mean, if we can, we can go down this rabbit hole, and then the whole one hour session will be done. But for a fact, yeah, there are definitely use cases in integration with resource planning tools for sure.
Yeah, there's so much data in Fleet Complete, but that's for an advanced, like I don't want to bring it up today but that thing, there's so many tools in there. There's so much data that's useful. It's not, because we're just doing an introductory presentation today, but it's an amazing tool. It covers truck location. So if a truck is ever stolen, we can turn on Fleet Complete.
Yeah.
It looks at how much time the driver is idling the truck. So if he's parked just wasting fuel, the safety team could tell that to it's just a lot. I don't want to get into it now.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
a lot of data.
Okay. So, any other question from the board? Before I go, I want to check with you and see if we did answer your question.
Thank you so much for really shedding some light. I think as Amrit, indicated in terms of the a range of softwares that maybe so many companies are like currently using. I really understand that, as it stands now, it always has not always been easy to have probably one maybe TMS which actually integrates almost like everything. I've seen that sometimes it may probably also maybe have caused some complexities, especially in maybe from a practical perspective, when maybe people who are working within the transport space maybe have to be accessing maybe from one software to the other or devices, and it's I guess I'm sure something that maybe as the technologies are always advancing, I'm sure we'll probably have more improvement. But it's actually very interesting, software that you have been sharing in terms of how it can actually improves and add value within the transport space.
Sure. Thanks,
Yes.
Dorancy.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Makosa is still there. Do you have a question? And I'll appreciate actually if you could let us understand what background you are coming from, in terms of your industry. That probably will be very, very helpful. But if you do have a question right now, let's get to it. And you could actually talk about your background as well, even if you don't have any other question beyond that. So I'm gonna have you talk, Makosa.
Yes.
Hi.
Okay. Hello, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
This is Marcos Samapika. I did study logistics, and basically, like right now, I'm based in Germany, so I'm still new here in Germany. But
Okay.
I'm also interested to get into the field, so to start to do something logistic stuff is my what I've studied for. But coming to I think that's my background. So at the
Okay.
moment,
Good.
I'm not very active in but I'm still start having means and plans to get into the industry. So
Sure.
okay. So coming to the session here of this software, I've got two questions. Maybe it's two or one question. When it comes to this software, does it basically comes to the trucks only, or it comes to the whole fleet management, like talking of the small vehicles? Let's say we talk of these small taxis, or let's say like the Uber things. Can you have such? Does it works also into those that software? Does it also works on those small fleet? And also another thing is it this data which is being collected? Is it does the driver put all the information manually, or like when the vehicle start moving, it does it automatic, or it's being the driver have to put it manually? I think those are
Oh, a great question. Yeah, great question. Thanks. Over to you, Amrit.
That's good. So the first question is the Uber, they're smaller, they're into cars. So they probably do have a similar software. It's just probably their own like proprietary.
Yeah. They probably have something on that level, but not a legislation, in this scenario where the government is actually the one mandating the industry, because we're talking about, activities that has impact on national economy, and even in terms of the safety of drivers and the fatigue scenarios, and probably a lot of data that has been collected at the Ministry of Transport level, where they've realized that they need to regulate what is going on in this industry. Because I happen to work with some students too who go into some of these industries, and they as interns. And then when they get there, of course, a lot of the drivers are using these paper logs. And you have a situation where these students are telling me that they are finding it difficult to reconcile what is going on with the drivers, which basically it is even creating situations where a situation of trust, is being, how do I use that language now, where there's this issue of mistrust as a result of that. So to totally eliminate these type of things, it will be ideal to actually have like a transparent system in place where everybody, like you said, Amrit, to have everybody on the same page. If this is the record that the device is collecting, everybody sees it at the same time, not that one person just goes behind the screen and then start fiddling with things. So I think these are the incentives. Beyond just the compliance, there are still several other things like we were talking about with Taransi. The fact that this data, if it's collected, it also helps in fleet optimization to help you to be able to manage your fleet properly. And also, I think Amri also talk about the security aspects of it. Like if something got stolen, I mean, if the old truck, just disappears, okay, you want to have that type of functionality where, okay, you can track where this truck is being taken to, if it's outside of the country, or, you because it's asset management too,
Yes.
all those other things are there as well. We're talking about billion-dollar industry here. And some of the things that these guys are carrying are huge investments,
Very precious goods, yeah.
Precious goods, and also some of them are hazardous materials. You don't want them to steal this thing and then use it to inflict injury upon people, or those type of situations, God forbid, right? So, but this is the reason why the legislation is being mandated that all the major fleet operators and even truck drivers, either independent or working as employees of commercial carriers, they need to have this implemented in place.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think there's a second part to that question, Marcus. I was asking if this is something that the data that is being collected is done automatically,
Yeah,
or the driver is putting it in.
the driver's not aware of how much data is collected. That's all behind the scenes, and the driver can't access it. Only management and safety team can.
Okay, sounds great. So there's no point in time where a driver, well, I suppose that if they start work, they probably will put on a start input, like they're starting work, their duty right now, and then they're able to, click some buttons, that will initiate the device now collecting data based on what is going on.
Yeah, they just log in and log out. That's it.
Oh, really? Nothing else? No other input from them?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Okay, yeah, because I thought that they in some way they had some input. Yeah, that's a very interesting comment there. Okay, Marcus, I hope that answered your question. Now, in case you just still have any other question that ties to that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't have any question.
Can you repeat that?
I said it's okay. I don't have any question now.
Any question? Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, thanks so much. And also nice meeting you, because this is the first time I've come across you. But hopefully we'll connect after the session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And well, any other questions? Because for me, I do have a lot of questions for you, Amrit. Okay. So maybe I should start with one of those questions I saw from just going down the rabbit hole on the internet.
Sure.
So some of the question I see, what are some of the challenges, like the pain in the neck that truckers are struggling with when it comes to the implementation of the ELD?
So we had many issues when we first started. Some of the GPSs were defective.
Oh, really?
Some of the SIM cards were defective. It was a lot of headaches in the beginning. Now we're over that, but in the beginning, a lot of trucks they weren't. A lot of trucks had issues. A lot with the SIM cards. If the SIM cards aren't working, we can't do anything. And if the GPS isn't working, again, we're stuck, right?
Okay, okay, okay. So I think this, I now understand the, the Internet of the Things aspects of this thing. So you have a SIM actually going into that tablet?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it goes into the device that connects to the truck, and then through Wi-Fi talks to the tablet.
Oh, I see, I see. Yeah, now I understand. Because I've been wondering what kind of infrastructures do you actually have to have in place, like maybe satellite communication or something like that, to have this data access real time, to the company office. So this is something that you're just leveraging the telecommunication company's infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, interesting. I think I have some other question here. So on what occasions are hours of service, which I think you mentioned is 13 hours, right?
Yeah, in Canada. Yeah.
Uh, on what occasions are HOS suspended and you are allowed to turn off the ELD?
So the only time you turn off the ELD is when you're not driving, when you're say at home sleeping. That's when it's off.
Okay, because some of the questions, this question ties into the fact that what if there is an accident on the road and then you're basically just stuck? Do you leave it on?
Yeah, exactly. So say I think what you're asking is, what if you're over hours? Then what is the driver to do? So if you're over hours, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter where you are. You have to park your truck. So say if you're stuck in traffic, you run out of hours. Right there, you have to stop your truck. You can't go over the time that you're allowed.
So even if you weren't working all that time, right? Like, we're talking about, fatigue or safety issue. So if you basically really, maybe you're not doing anything during that period and these 8 hours of service just passed by,
Yeah, if you're
you
stuck,
know.
you can't go over the hours. It's very stern rule. So sometimes we have drivers stuck, like say 2 hours from home. It doesn't matter.
Something like that, right?
They have to park. Yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah. There's no risk. Nobody's allowed to take risks. It's dangerous, right?
Okay. So there was this other question about, so what will change for truckers after the switch to ELD from the AOBRD, which is the onboard one that they were able to make changes to that we talked about earlier?
I think the roads will be safer because before a lot of drivers they were manipulating logs. They had two different logs, and that was illegal. But today with the new e-log, you can't do that.
Okay. So somebody asked another question: does the ELD mandate extend to non-ELD trucks? So maybe old trucks, maybe you talk about this ECM module. What if there are some trucks that don't have these ECM modules? How does that work?
So that's a good question. If the truck is older than 1998, that means it's mechanical, then you don't need an electronic log.
Oh, really? So you just go on doing whatever, like,
Paper
but
log, yeah, because the truck is not electronic. It can't feed it can't feed the system.
hmm, interesting. So the other question was this. If the 13 hours of service is passed for whatever reason, maybe between getting stuck and all of that stuff, and then you're driving, like basically you're going to the customer's location, what would happen? Will the truck stop by itself?
No, it doesn't stop, but it's risky. Then the safety team will find out, and it's not good, right? The safeties team is to quarterback this. They're sort of in-house policing this, right?
Yeah.
So raise some big flags if somebody goes over the hours.
Okay. So basically, that will require an investigation to know what really happened and stuff like that.
Yeah, they can be taken off. They can be disciplined, right? It's breaking the rules if somebody goes over the hours.
Oh, really? So regardless of if it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, so that's where trip planning comes in, right? You have to, the driver, if he's a professional driver, he'll plan his trip in terms of traffic, weather, right? You have to plan your trip.
Well, yeah, because these are some of the areas where the drivers apparently are kind of, are, they're kind of bothered that this thing is not flexible, like it's rigid. It doesn't
Exactly. Yeah,
allow some flexibility, well, maybe what they are used to, because that's the thing with technology, right? Like we were saying before, if it doesn't allow you to do some of the things that had in mind, or that helps you to do your day-to-day activities smoothly, then you might consider that it's not really like a good tool for you.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So in that regards, as an HR person, anyways, what are those things that you would do consider will be the type of proper training to have, and then what kind of strategy actually to have for training your truck drivers so that they could adapt easily to these changes? Because in the end, it's about managing these changes properly and then taking care of the human aspects of it, that they're able to adapt on a personal level. What are those things that are being done in the organizations to make that happen for them?
So in the beginning, we had Talis Fleet Complete come in. They did centralized training for everybody, staff and drivers. But now we're comfortable that we've been doing the training in-house for drivers.
Mm. So any specifics as to what needs to be addressed in this scenario? I mean, I go on the internet, I see a lot of people complaining, apparently the drivers, and that what that tells me as somebody who is interested in, business transformation, business process transformation, is that, like the reason why these guys are all over internet complaining is that nobody's listening to them.
It was our drivers were uneasy in the beginning, but now they've all complemented the software. They say it's easier than a paper log.
Yeah, or that's a feedback from your drivers.
Yeah, we're getting really positive feedback now.
Okay. But I guess in the beginning, probably would have those situations where, because of this new thing happening and then not used to it. But is there anything specific that you guys have done in terms of your training, in terms of your change management strategy to really make this happen, to get to this stage, in that journey where you now feel like, yeah, and then also the driver as well feels like you guys are now on the same page concerning this ELD implementation?
We've been more available for our drivers, like after hours, like always answering our calls. We've just now we feel like we're over the hump where a lot of the team is they've learned the software and they're teaching other drivers. But in the beginning, we were always available any time of the day to answer any questions.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think that those are just my questions, because I do see a lot of these comments and I'm thinking, okay, well, is it that nobody's answering these guys' questions? Is the reason why they are just on the internet fuming? I mean, you have to see some of the comments these guys are making. You know, it just appears that nobody is listening to them. They have different types of concern. Well, what if? A lot of what if questions. bothering around security, even their own security, given that they are being tracked. That's what some of them are saying. It's like, okay, well, guess what? I'm like being tracked, and this portends security issues. What if, there is cyber security, infiltration and stuff like that? How does that impact, me as a person who is the one actually driving this vehicle, especially when they're driving these hazardous vehicles, I mean goods, and then maybe somebody intercepts them, we could talk about all type of scenario. I'm just saying that these are some of the things that these guys are saying on the internet. But let's have Terency jump in here. I think he has something to say. Hi, Terency.
Right, okay. Thank you so much for the platform again. Very interesting questions and also responses. It's quite informative and quite, really enlightening on a lot of things. The transport sector really has always been adding value, but it has always been affected by a lot of issues and challenges, and that newer technologies really seem to have, give the leverage and the impact in improving a lot of things. Maybe a quick question, that I wanted to maybe reflect on was I've seen a lot of resistance, when it comes to, maybe newer technologies being introduced, especially in the implementation part of it. I just want to maybe find out, maybe from a practical perspective, Amrit, in terms of how perhaps as you maybe have introduced the new ELD to the drivers, how perhaps maybe have you dealt with issues in terms of resistance, maybe to change into the buy info, of how this software can actually, improve from the driver's, perspective, and even everyone, all the stakeholders involved, maybe to your organization. And another question that I also wanted to maybe reflect again was, the ELD really presents more of like as a, a newer, initiative to support transport sustainability. So I was just of the view of, in terms of how you guys have been able to also procure, maybe these transport software on the platforms that you have been able to access them. Thank you.
So I'm not sure I got the first question, but I know the second question about maybe the considerations that have to be taken to select the software, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the first one, I'm not sure I got that one.
I got the question, and it's a good one. When the drivers, they did give negative feedback that we're instituting logs, and how we handle it, we were really firm with them. Right, this is the decision we made. It's the rules, and that's it. We were firm. We had to take that stand because we weren't gonna take that decision back. It's everybody's in the same boat.
Okay, all right.
And the second question that you asked, I think you wanted to know why we went with this particular TELUS Fleet Complete. It's because our ownership group, they actually own a percentage of the company there. So it was a no-brainer, right? We were going to go with the sister company.
Okay. Sounds interesting. So basically, there's a partnership going on, right? So it just makes sense to invest in your partner's business.
Yes, yeah. It's like we always joke and say our owner, he's taking out of one pocket and putting in the other.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, because I think that's one of the questions I actually had seen from some of the. So, what do truckers look for in an ELD provider? Like, what are the considerations? When you're selecting. But in your own case here, it might not apply because apparently you're working with your partner's software and your partner's platform. But what would you like? Okay, if you're gonna recommend to maybe commercial carriers or truckers who are independent truckers? What should they be looking for in an ELD provider?
Just ease of, and something that would be easy to use. It's like something user-friendly.
User-friendly, okay. Okay, so aside from that, any other factor to
Well,
consider?
price, because it's a business, right? So I assume price is important.
Okay, okay, sounds good. So I think I had a final question. So what type of fines are we talking about here actually? What are the categories of fines just in case this type of things happen? Because I'm even thinking, okay, who gets to know that somebody has committed what do we call that? We can't call that a crime, right? So who gets to know that this thing has happened? Are you being monitored by the MTO? Do you have to submit some report to them? How do they implement that?
So that's a good question. Every transportation company has a score, right? And so whenever you get a ticket, your score goes down.
Okay.
And whenever you pass an inspection, your score goes up. So right now, our company, like Touch Black, we have a good score. It's not something that's reported, but if there's an issue, it's something that's looked at.
I didn't get that.
Like the MTO, they have their own reporting system, and every time you get a ticket, your score goes down. And
oh, like a credit score thing.
Yeah, it's like a credit score. It's exactly like a credit score. And okay. The only time it's a problem is if you get below, like for example, like 15%.
Okay.
Then it's a problem. Then they'll take your plates. That's pretty serious. The ministry will take your plates if you get into too many problems, and then you can't do business.
Yeah, apparently, if you got into big issues, they will know about it because they will be called in for such kind of cases happened, and then that probably will go into your reporting as well, like into your score.
Yeah, good and bad, everything's recorded.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, this really been, I mean, I didn't even know when an hour just passed by because it's a really very interesting topic. We thank you. Like, maybe you guys don't know, like, right now we're 8 p.m. In Canada, Eastern time, is it? CST actually. So you'll be 9 p.m. there in Toronto.
Yes.
The guys calling us probably are also on the other side of the time zone, or in the middle time zone. So interesting to see that we can make this happen despite the tiny differences in time zone, guys. I really appreciate all your time. I appreciate the effort, guys. I'm really appreciate the effort also you put into making this presentation happen. Hopefully we can have a follow-up, to see how this also ties into even operating fleet operations and management in itself, from your own perspective. We'll really appreciate the time, even during this very COVID-19 pandemic issue. So guys, I appreciate it. I will send you a link to the recording so that you can have and also maybe sometime later I'll actually put this on the YouTube. And that's my YouTube. I'll be sharing with you guys once it's also there on the YouTube. So thanks so much. Been a great night, guys. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thanks. Bye for now.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Amrit.
Yeah, hey, good job, Dale.
Okay, yeah, good one. Yeah, I think a lot of very important questions came up, which is really what I'm looking out for. So I'm very glad about all the questions that we were able to come up with, even with the participants. Yeah, so I will share the links to the group. Also, I'll see what I can edit and then share with you via my YouTube link.
Good. Okay, perfect. Let's touch base.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great one. Regards to your family.
Okay, take care. Thank you.